Hey everyone, my name is Anna McNew, and I will be doing my report on the integration of communication between the intelligence community agencies as well as lower law enforcement, and also the failure to communicate between agencies. So let me start by saying that the intelligence community has like 16 different intelligence agencies, and that doesn't include the Director of National Intelligence. Some examples of the intelligence community include like the CIA, the DIA, DEA, and basically like any branch of the military. Every department has their own like objectives and their own set of rules and their own way of doing things. But they all answer to the Director of National Intelligence and individuals assigned to the Congress committees who oversee the intelligence community. The organizational structure of the intelligence community is divided, and they have good reason to do this because they all have their own assignments and their own specialities amongst all of them. So, like for example, the CIA is like independent from the cabinet, while most agencies are under the wing of the Defense Department. But in contrast to this, for example, like the Department of Energy, State, and Treasury, that is in charge of their own intelligence offices, so they're not under the same wing as the CIA or anything from the DoD. And so all of this is to say that for the United States, we are like thoroughly covered with security and all aspects of like gaining information and analyzing it and then being able to act upon it. But having all of these individual groups makes these collective mindsets. And so these collective mindsets can like cause barriers between the intelligence communities, and it can cause the need for secrecy, ownership of information, everyday turf wars, intergroup rivalry, I cannot say that word, and differing skills. And so these issues can cause information to be interpreted incorrectly, have agencies not share information because they want to keep their autonomy, or even have agencies not realize information that they have to be of importance, and so they just don't share it. And so this failure to communicate has had detrimental effects on the morale of the country and the confidence in the government to basically do their job. And so all of this is to say is that like the failure to communicate between agencies has like aided in 9/11 and also aided into the 2009 Christmas Day bombing. If you're not aware of the 9/11 one, we have talked about it all in the class. But one of the 9/11 things that happened that like I want to talk about is the Pentagon. And so the NSA had information about one of the men on the plane that flew into the Pentagon. However, since no one had asked for that information, it went unreported. And so it goes to show that like the NSA had this information on, even though there were 5 people, I believe, on the plane, and he was just one of the 5, they had information on that one person, and nothing happened because they didn't share the information because no one asked them about it and they didn't feel that it was important. And so I feel like this is like one example. And then the second example would be the Christmas Day bombing in Michigan that happened in 2009 that I just mentioned. Um, it was this man from Nigeria, and he got on a plane with an undetected explosive in his underpants, and he went to detonate it, and it didn't go off the way that he thought it would. It basically just like exploded in his pants, and like that was it. Like it didn't like set the bomb off. And so which this was great because everyone on the plane was safe, but um his father had expressed that his son was involved with with these Islamic extremist groups, and they were not able to connect the dots. And so even Barack Obama had addressed the concern and said that the US government had all of this information on him, but they weren't able to connect the dots. And if they had connected the dots, the man would have been put on a no-fly list and he would never have been able to get on that plane to start with. So, I came up with 2 actions that I believe would be really helpful in correcting this. One action that I believe would be beneficial would be open communication between all the agencies, not just with the ODNI, but also with each other. Um, I believe that um, information should be shared. Since 80% of all information is achieved overt and not covert, it would make sense that most information should be being shared amongst agencies because the information isn't considered classified, meaning that like 20% of all information is like a fifth of all information would be considered classified. And so I believe that being able to share information between the agencies would allow for agencies to connect the dots more, which I believe that's on my next slide. And I also believe that being able to give incentives for sharing information would also be an action that could be taken because there's so many ramifications, whether it be legal, civil, or administrative, that really put a damper on wanting to share information because you never know what you should be able to share, and if you share, are you going to get in trouble for it? Are you going to get fined or put in jail? And so I believe that being able to give like incentive rewards, and even though I'm not really sure what those rewards would be, whether they be bonuses or something else, I believe that being able to give rewards for that would also be beneficial. Um, And so, like I said, it would this would be able to help agencies connect the dots. It would also allow agencies to have knowledge from each other instead of being in the dark, especially when they have information that would be useful and or they come across information but they have nothing else to go on, so they believe it's just like an anomaly and they just put it in their files and keep going on with their lives. And who would be in charge of this? I would say that the ODNI should be in charge, just because that they are the main person that all of these agencies answer to, and so that they would be the one person that would be able to really make a change, since they're um in contact with all the agencies all the time. And so um I believe that the changes in leadership are really important. And I believe that the leaders from the 68 agencies, as well as the Director of National Intelligence, um, would need to make a change. Um, I would also say the structure of the 16 agencies would be needed to change too, just so because of the interagency files that would be going back and forth. I believe that they should be able to be um, looked at, and there shouldn't be a fear that information is going to be read that shouldn't be read. And so I believe that the leaders should be able to take charge and pass on the information, that files need to be put, like reports need to be made and sent. And I also believe that the structure on how things are classified and how people get clearance should also be addressed. And so people can share the information that is needed, even if it's minimal. The legal ramifications, I believe that there wouldn't really be any legal ramifications except if someone looked at something that was classified when they weren't cleared to actually read it. Um, from what I've read, all the reports and like articles that I've read, people really want communication between agencies, especially in the intelligence community. So I believe that this would be a really good idea. Um, I think that there would also be some backlash though from the intelligence community, just because um, the intelligence community is built upon different agencies, and all those agencies are very close knit, and they believe that the information that they learn or they obtain and analyze is their information. They own that information because they did the work for it and because it is unique to their department. So, like, the DEA is probably not going to have files on um, immigration stuff because it doesn't have to do with drugs. If it had to do with drugs, it would overlap. But like I was saying, the DEA is not going to have files and files of immigration unless they overlap. And so I feel like each of those departments are going to have their own specialties, and that's really going to put a damper on what they feel that they own, and they're not going to want to share the information with each other. Other than that, though, I do believe that this being able to open lines of communication would be really good for the community. I put the question slide on there. I think we're supposed to ask each other one question and then answer something. So here's my questions slide. Here are all of my references, and I hope you guys enjoyed the class and have a wonderful spring break and the rest of the semester, you guys. Thank you.